Hello again, everybody. I'm Kurt Bergland, and it's time for Kurt Bergland's Monday morning book review. Sometimes it's fiction, sometimes it's nonfiction, sometimes it's out of print, sometimes it's brand new. And today I've got something sort of in the middle. It's nonfiction, I can tell you that. The book is called An October to Remember, 1968. The Tigers-Cardinals World Series as told by the men who played in it. The writer is Brendan Donley, and what he does in this book is he hunts down, the copyright date is 2018, the publisher is called Sports Publishing Company, and he hunts down the still surviving players and coaches from these two ball clubs that played in that very dramatic, very important time in our country's history in 1968. The book is 311 pages. There is an appendix. The appendix contains World Series stats and the rosters for each club. There is not an index, but there are endnotes. So if you're wondering where he got some of his information, it's very easy to find in this book. The interviews are really good, really interesting. I find, even though I am not, as you might know, a Cardinal fan, I find the Cardinal interviews in this book to be more interesting, more insightful, and more sort of dramatic in the sense that I get a strong feeling from these players that are being interviewed, Tim McCarver and some others, that they could feel it slipping away and they could feel like there wasn't much they could do about it. So there's a lot of interesting angles in here from a sports perspective, a human interest perspective, and I really like that part of it. There are a couple of major players that are not interviewed in this book. Mickey Lolich, at the time the book was written, was writing his own book about the 1968 World Series, so he declined to be interviewed, and so did Bob Gibson. Bob Gibson had just written a book about Game 1, in fact, about every pitch in Game 1, that was, maybe the highlight of his career, the peak of his career, which had a lot of peaks. So those two players who were still living when he was putting the book together, but declined to be interviewed. But there's an awful lot of primary source material in here, despite the fact that those two major figures were not part of the book. A couple of things I do want to say. One is that if you're the guy on the internet who finds a spelling mistake or a grammatical error and decides to give a bad book review because of that and say things like, well, he obviously didn't have a very good editor, or he doesn't know how to proofread, or he doesn't know how to use spell check, and, drive that home for, 500-600 words on Amazon. I think we're in the golden age of sports publishing, and one of the reasons is that we have small publishers, and yes, sometimes stuff gets by and gets into print. There are a few things in here that you might quibble with in that area. I taught writing for a lot of years. I was okay with it. I think you can put the gun down if you're that guy and be okay with it too. The second thing I want to talk about, though, is something that Brendan Donnelly did himself, to himself. And that is, he talked about the glory of their times, and he did it very early in the book. And if you're, my friends, if you're writing a sports book, if you're writing a baseball book, you can't mention the glory of their times in the first 50 pages. Actually, you know what? Better rule, don't mention it at all. Because what it's going to do is it's going to invite people to think to themselves, hey, is this book as good as The Glory of Their Times? It's not. It can't be. That might be the baseball book of all time. And what did he do? He talked about his methodology being similar to The Glory of Their Times. Even if it is, you can't say that. Because you won't win the comparison game. Set those two things to the side when you read this book, and you're going to enjoy it. I was too young, of course, to remember the 1968 World Series. But after reading this book, I had a much better sense of it. I think this is my favorite book about the 68 World Series that I've read, and I've read 3 or 4 of them now. I learned a lot from this, and I think you will too. I think you'll like it. So, I purchased it online, used bookstore, $7.50. I looked for a sale, and I got a good one. So if you look for your sales, you can get it under $10 as well, and or at a local bookstore as well. This one, as you can tell, is a retired library book. Who cares? It's in wonderful shape, and unbelievably to me, it's from a Michigan library. What? You're retiring a book from the 68 World Series, and you're a Michigan library? Isn't Detroit still in Michigan? Anyway, end of rant. Pick up the book, Brendan Donley, 311 pages, Sports Publishing Company, and a 2018 copyright. It's called An October to Remember. Thanks for joining me. Come on back tomorrow for Kurt Bergland's Strategy Stumpers, where we talk about baseball strategy. And next Monday, and lots of baseball sims all this week. And then next Monday, I'll be back with another book review at 10 a.m. Thanks again. Have a wonderful day. So long, everybody.